great souls, and welcome to this evening to the Temple of Light at Ananda Assisi. This evening is a special evening because we celebrate the day when Swami Kriyananda left the body, 21st of April, 9 years ago. He left also a gift to this community, to many devotees in Europe that are able to come here in this place where he left the body, in his house. And exactly in this temple, his body had been here for 8 days before leaving, and many devotees from all parts of Europe and India and America, the whole world came, and it was a very, very blessed week. In this evening, we'll have a few songs, short songs of Swami Kriyananda, and then also 4 speakers who are also the founding members of this community, and also founding members of Ananda village before I was even born. And they will also share what Swami Kriyananda really left, what is his legacy, and especially what he left in the hearts of many people. So we'll start the evening with cloisters, a brief song, and then they will speak in order, Shivani, Uma, Narya, and then Kirtani. And now we'll start with a song.
Dal mio cuore ti chiamo, Signore, quanti anni che piango per te, quanti anni che sogno vederti, o Signore, oggi vieni a me, non lasciarmi più così solo qui, sono sempre tuo, verrai tu. Lord, I've called you my Lord, Lord, I've called you. Many years I have longed for your sight, bathe the darkness with tears of devotion, offered candles in prayer to your light. How much longer, friend, must I cry your name? I am yours, ever yours. Will you come? Dal mio cuore ti chiamo, Signore, quanti anni che piango per te, quanti anni che sogno vederti, o Signore, oggi vieni a me, non lasciarmi così solo qui, sono sempre tuo, verrai tu.
Swami Kriyananda, secondo lui stesso,
According to his
aveva due desideri in questa incarnazione. Il desiderio di conoscere e essere tutt'uno con Dio
be one with God,
e il desiderio
and
di
the desire
aiutare
to help
di
us
trovare Dio.
to find God.
E lui si è dedicato tutta la sua
And he dedicated his whole life to giving us, to transmitting to us the vibrations, the love, the teachings of Master, and to elaborate, to expand these teachings, to deepen, giving us many things in books, in discourses, in music, in communities. And he left us much more on a very subtle level of his legacy. And I would like to start this evening reading a few parts of his last testament and legacy, so we can see how Swami himself had seen his life and what he wanted to leave for us. He left us more than anything, the communities. And so in his testament, he says, he speaks of Ananda. Ananda is not and never has been my own work personally. I founded it in the name of and did my earnest best to carry it on in the spirit of my Guru, 𝗟𝗓𝗪𝗟 and of his line of Gurus, Jesus Christ, 𝗦𝗪𝗘𝗙 Babaji, 𝗟𝗓𝗪𝗪 Mahashaya, and Swami 𝗟𝗓𝗪𝗘𝗧. The last in this line of Gurus is Paramahansa Yogananda. Should anyone look upon me as his spiritual teacher, I ask that he do so as a representative of our line of Gurus, and not as a Guru in my own separate right. Ananda is a spiritual work and not a business. Any interpretation, therefore, of Ananda's future directions should be founded on one consideration primarily: the question, what will best further Ananda's spiritual mission? For example, it may sometimes be tempting to make Ananda's primary consideration one of monetary profit or worldly recognition, or the question of making the teachings available to the greatest possible number of people. It is important, instead, for the spiritual ideals that have been passed down to us through our line of Gurus to remain the fundamental reason for Ananda's existence. Worldly acceptance is not important to us except to the extent that it helps people spiritually. God's acceptance of our offering to Him of our lives and our service is the only thing that should matter to my successors. This is us, the successors of this great soul. My legacy to Ananda is spiritual in nature primarily and consists of the teachings, ideals, and vibrations that I have received from my Guru. My wish is that Ananda always remain true to these principles and remain faithful to the following twin ideals based on the example and teaching of Paramahansa Yogananda. 1. That Ananda strictly honor the dictum, people are more important than things. For people, especially in their spiritual needs, will always be more important than any organizational exigency. Number 2, that Ananda remain true to our motto, Yato Dharma, Tato Jaya, where there is adherence to right attitude and action, there is victory. Indeed, Ananda should define victory itself in terms of this principle, and never seek victory, even for the sake of its own survival, at the cost of this principle. If kindness and compassion must always and resolutely be given primary consideration. I want to repeat this because it's really a sign of Swami Kriyananda, a mark of Swami Kriyananda. Kindness and compassion must always and resolutely be given primary consideration. These are more important than even the best thought out rules and precedents. Hence, the following. The last 2 points. The first consideration of my successors be not public opinion, nor an individual's needs as construed or understood by that person, but a sincere effort at attunement with the will of God and with His love. And that God and Guru's will, not the mere pleasure of human beings, nor any considerations of worldly popularity, be Ananda's first consideration in all its decisions and actions. It is my hope, finally, that Ananda will always remain faithful to the following priorities. A. Our primary goal is to find God and to unite our souls with Him in divine love. And B. Our secondary goal is to serve God above all, free from the influence of passing fads and opinions. Swami was an idealist, a deeply spiritual man, a friend for all of us, who dedicated himself to all of us, to these ideals, and above all, to the service of his Guru. Thank you, Swamiji. Cosa? Qual è? Simultaneous. Ah, però loro non mi sentiranno, Loro non mi sentiranno. Cioè dobbiamo fare... sì, però dobbiamo fare un... Okay, so we'll do... No, I'll do it here but side by side.
So I just, okay. I was reading this afternoon lots of things about Swamiji. And he said a very lovely thing about, he was talking about discipleship. And he said the legacy of a great guru, a great master, is the people. Not the, just as Shivani was saying, not the organization per se, not the buildings or whatever we have created, but the individuals in that organization. Because what a great master does is create disciples, and hopefully great disciples. And of course we can look at Swamiji and see a great disciple. But of course it doesn't stop there. It continues on and on and on, because disciples pass on the energy and vibration of their master. And I know there are several people here that are new to Ananda.
E so che ci sono un paio di persone qui che sono nuove ad Ananda.
But you're still included in this story.
Ma siete comunque inclusi in questa storia.
Because the transmission of a great master's teachings
Perché la trasmissione degli insegnamenti di un grande maestro
and a great master's work
e anche l'opera di un grande maestro
has come through Swamiji,
è venuta attraverso Swamiji,
but it's a universal message.
ma è un messaggio universale.
It is not exclusive. It is very inclusive.
Non è esclusivo, è molto inclusivo.
And I think those of you that were in class this morning recognize that in the teachings.
E penso che coloro di voi che siete stati nella lezione stamattina l'avete riconosciuto negli insegnamenti.
The spiritual life and Swami's example of the spiritual life
E poi la vita spirituale è l'esempio di Swami della vita spirituale.
is not just nice ideas or reading books about the spiritual life.
Non sono solo belle idee o leggere libri sulla vita spirituale,
It is to be lived.
ma sono cose che devono essere vissute.
it is to be interiorized and shared.
Sono cose che devono essere interiorizzate e condivise.
And it's shared not only through words or books or whatever it is, it's shared through energy and vibration.
E condivise non solo attraverso parole e libri e altre cose, ma anche attraverso l'energia, attraverso la vibrazione.
You can feel in people where their, center of gravity, where their consciousness lives.
E puoi sentire nelle parole dove la loro coscienza vive,
Even strangers,
anche nelle persone che non conosci,
because of energy and vibration.
proprio per il fatto dell'energia, della vibrazione.
And the example that Swami left us with is you feel, you see his kindness, his compassion, his joy.
E l'esempio che Swami ci ha lasciato è che puoi vedere, proprio vedi la sua gentilezza, la compassione, la gioia.
And more than see, you feel it, you experience it.
E più di vederlo, lo puoi sentire, lo puoi sperimentare.
And there's the measure of discipleship. And especially Swamiji used the word true disciple.
E anche come misura del discepolato, e soprattutto lui stesso ha usato questo termine, un vero discepolo.
That they vibrate and share the energy of their teacher, their master, their guru.
Che loro proprio vibrano, condividono l'energia del loro insegnante, del loro maestro, del loro guru.
I think this is the kind of true, real difference between a religion and a spiritual path, a spiritual life.
E credo che questa è proprio la vera distinzione, differenza fra una religione e un sentiero spirituale, una vita
I
spirituale.
always think a religion is man-made and the spiritual life is God-made.
Io sempre penso alla religione come una cosa creata dai uomini e alla vita spirituale come una cosa creata da Dio.
Because there's no room for hypocrisy in the spiritual life. If you're living it truly, this is the true disciple.
Perché nella vita spirituale, se la vivi veramente, non c'è spazio per l'ipocrisia. Questo è proprio un vero discepolo.
Or wars, historically, wars and killing in the name of God. It doesn't add up.
O come storicamente abbiamo visto, no? Guerre e anche uccidere le altre persone nel nome di Dio, semplicemente non fa due insieme.
I mean, I'm being quite black and white, but I'm trying to make a point.
Ovviamente sono molto bianco e nero,
Because there are gray areas in life.
Ma sto cercando di proprio fare un punto, no? Perché ci sono delle aree grigie nella vita.
So the idea of a true disciple
Così l'idea di un vero discepolo
is conveying to people through your life, not only when you're teaching or when you're singing or when you are writing books, but how you live your life.
L'idea di un vero discepolo è che trasmetti alle persone attraverso la tua vita, non solo quando stai insegnando o cantando o scrivendo libri, ma proprio il modo in cui vivi la tua vita.
How you relate to others.
Il modo in cui ti relazioni con gli altri.
How you work out conflict and problems.
Come risolvi i conflitti e problemi.
Do you have more joy? Do you have more happiness?
Hai più gioia? Hai più felicità?
Are you more centered? Are you more balanced?
Sei più centrato, più equilibrato?
Do you share those things with everyone?
E condividi queste cose con gli altri, con tutti?
And you in India they talk about a Sat Guru, which all of the masters behind me are Sat Gurus.
In India si parla dei Sat Guru e tutti i maestri dietro di me sono Sat Guru.
And Sat means true gurus.
E Sat Guru vuol dire un vero guru.
But then there are Chota Gurus.
Però poi ci sono i Chota Guru.
Chota means little.
E Chota vuol dire piccolo.
Anybody can be a Chota Guru to anyone else.
E qualsiasi persona può essere un Chota Guru a qualsiasi altra persona.
If you have a quality that someone else, a quality you don't want, and someone else has the balance of that quality, they're your Chota Guru. I want to be like that. I want to do that.
Se tu hai una caratteristica che non ti piace e qualcun altro ha la qualità opposta che lo equilibria, loro possono essere il tuo Chota Guru, perché puoi pensare: voglio quella qualità, voglio essere così.
And by osmosis we learn how to become different.
E per osmosi impariamo come diventare diversi.
And I think of all of our years with Swamiji
E penso anche a tutti i nostri anni con Swamiji,
in the same way.
nello stesso modo.
Just who he was a teaching.
Semplicemente chi lui era un
And it
insegnamento.
wasn't always sweetness and light.
E non era sempre dolcezza e leggerezza.
I personally, and I'm sure others can come up here and say the same, have been scolded many times by Swamiji.
Io personalmente sono anche sicura che altri possono dire la stessa cosa, sono stata ripresa diverse volte da Swamiji. Rimproverata, grazie.
And I have to say, never in a way that caused me to be defensive. Never. That's something. That's really something.
E devo dire che non è mai successo nel modo che mi ha fatto diventare difensiva, e questo veramente è qualcosa.
It's many times when people are snippy with us, or how do you say such a thing? Or, I don't mean ragingly angry, I just mean irritated with us. We get defensive, people get defensive, because it rubs us the wrong way.
Perché tante volte quando qualcuno è irritato con noi diventiamo difensivi perché ci tocca nel modo sbagliato.
But there is a way to do it where you don't do that.
Ma c'è un modo di farlo in cui non fai questa cosa, non causi questa cosa.
And learning that, seeing that in someone that you see regularly and are around and learning from without realizing you're learning is a profound, profound part of our spiritual life with Swamiji.
E vedere questa cosa, imparare questa cosa da qualcuno con cui sei spesso, e proprio anche imparare senza neanche sai che lo stai imparando, proprio faceva parte della nostra vita con Swamiji.
And don't think for a minute that if you're new or weren't around Swami or didn't know him because he was already passed,
E non pensare neanche per un minuto se tu sei nuovo e non conosci Swami o non l'hai conosciuto nel corpo perché ha già lasciato il corpo,
because it's just not true.
che non puoi averlo perché non è vero.
All of us can tune into them just like we can the masters.
Tutti noi ci possiamo sintonizzare con lui nello stesso modo che ci possiamo sintonizzare con i maestri.
And attunement is the key.
E la sintonia è la chiave.
Tune into the masters, tune into Swami, tune into the people that were around Swami, tune into his music, his books, his legacy.
Sintonizzati con i maestri, sintonizzati con Swami, sintonizzati con le persone che erano vicino a Swami, con la sua musica, con i suoi libri.
Take what he gives in the spirit he gives it.
Prendi quello che lui dà proprio nello spirito in cui lo dà.
It was always a spirit of love, compassion, joy, humor.
Ed era sempre nello spirito di amore, compassione, gioia, umorismo.
And that legacy will go on long after we're gone.
E questa eredità proprio continuerà molto anche quando noi non ci siamo, per lungo tempo.
Because it's something everyone wants and needs in their life.
Perché è qualcosa che tutti vogliono e hanno bisogno nella loro vita.
And he has left that with us to nourish and nurture in each other and share it with anyone that wants it.
Ed è una cosa che noi dobbiamo proprio nutrire uno nell'altro e condividere con chiunque lo vuole.
I can't see the time, so I don't know how much time. Okay, finish. Okay, so that's all I wanted to share, that we have a great gift that we have been given, and it doesn't matter if you've come long after he's passed. We have a great gift that we can share with all.
E quello che volevo condividere è che proprio abbiamo un grande dono che ci è stato dato, anche se siete venuti molti anni dopo il suo trapasso, e abbiamo un dono che possiamo condividere con gli altri.
And Swamiji left us with that great gift, so pass it on.
E Swamiji ci ha lasciato questo grande dono, così vogliamo proprio
Live
inoltrarlo,
it.
darlo, viverlo.
Live it and pass it on.
Così vivilo e dallo agli altri.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you, Swamiji.
Facciamo un canto di San Francesco di Assisi, le parole e la musica di Swami Kriyananda, il cantico delle creature. Yes. We are doing a chant composed by Swami Kriyananda, the music, and the words by Saint Francis of Assisi. Altissimo, onnipotente, buon Signore, Tue son le laude, la gloria et l'onore, et ogni benedizione, a Te solo se confanno et nullomo è degno denominarte. Laudato sia Dio mio Signore, cum tutte le Tue creature, specialmente messer lo frate Sole, la quale giorna et illumina noi per Lui, et ello è bello et radiante, cum grande splendore de Te, Signore, porta significazione. Laudato mio Signore, per sor luna et per le stelle, in cielo le hai formato chiare et belle. Laudato sia mio Signore, per nostra Madre Terra, la quale ne sostenta et governa et produce diversi frutti et colorati fiori et erbe. Laudate et benedicite mio Signore, et regratiate et servite a Lui cum grande umilitate, cum grande
Okay. Talking about Swami is always reductive, because there is not one word or more words that can really describe the greatness of that soul that incarnated in the soul, in the body of Swami Kriyananda. Every time I never find the right words, because they are words that don't make me feel as happy as I felt when I was close to Swami. It's beautiful to share, but sharing in this moment, calculating or taking into account the greatness of that person, or the transformation that he made within each one of us, it was miraculous. Every time we would be close to Swami, something miraculous happened. We would watch Swami, even if he were in silence. There was a communion of hearts, a coherence, a vibration that would fill your mind, your heart with love, infinite love. And all of us, when he would call us to drink tea, to go buy something together, to walk with him in front of his house, everything else was less important. There was no commitment that could resist that force, that magnetism. We could have been, having a phone call with the President of the United States. Swami Kriyananda had precedence, and we would run to him every second, every millisecond. It was pure gold, 24-karat gold. And we were very, 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 in a way, greedy to receive that love, that gold, because that gold will never be exhausted. It's a gold that multiplies. And this afternoon, so every afternoon we would wait eagerly to see if there's a phone call that would say, Swami wants you to come for tea. And when they would say, well, can you come? And we're like, what do you mean, can we come? Of course we'll. Even if you were, even if you were in swimwear, you would just had to go. There was a power that would just draw you close to this angel, because he was an angel. We would come there full of thoughts, and in 2 seconds, everything would go away. 2 seconds. I'm not talking about 15 minutes, quarter of an hour. when your eyes looked at Swami's eyes, poof, everything disappeared. No commitments, no difficulties. All of ourselves, every cell, every atom was there, present, to be enlightened by that infinite light. How many blessings, how much grace we received in every instant. Kirtani asked me to talk of the last tea with Swami and the last tea with Swami, because the day after he would fly into heaven. That afternoon, Friday, 19th of April, Ariani calls us and she says, Swami would love to have a tea with you. Can you come? And we just like, zoom, we ran there. And when we were there, he, in his sweetness, in his grace, in his regalness, he was sitting in the chair that that you've seen in his house, the brown chair, and he would just say, welcome, come in. And with the joy we would come in, and that afternoon he offered to us tea. But he was a little bit more withdrawn, he was more contemplative. But maybe he was he was telling us many things with his heart, things that could not be said with words, because they were very subtle vibrations. So the range of words doesn't arrive in vibrations, it's too gross, but he communicated with the heart. And we would talk, and he would just look at us, a few brief smiles, and these beautiful, powerful gazes, these shafts of light looking at us. And he was very withdrawn that day. In that time, he used to eat at 7, but then at that time he would eat at 6:30. So we had tea, and then we would joke a bit, because it was a moment of lightness, of friendship, of also sacred friendship and sharing. He would say things that weren't great, weren't big, simple, and playful, and full of affection, of love. Even also just the two of us, and then he would follow us and he would say something, and then he would just let us speak. And I often would have wanted to be just silent, because his words were important, transformative words. And that day just was very tranquil. And that hour and a half that we were there in the afternoon, and then he said, now I'll have my dinner. And we greeted him, we went out, and usually this would happen once or twice a week. In the past it would happen almost every day, but in the last 2 years it reduced more and more the day that we could have tea, that we were invited by Swami. And I remember the day after, I didn't expect the phone call by Miriam that said, come, Swami would like to have a tea with you. And it was somewhat uncommon, but with great joy we went, of course. That afternoon he was much more withdrawn. He almost never opened his eyes to say something, just a few reflections, few words, but very, very concentrated. He was very interiorized in the spine, and he would look each one of us in the eyes, always with a smile. And he would let us exchange words. He was very, how can I say, he was detached from everything that was happening, as if he were there, but he wasn't really there. I'm sure that you, those of you who were there in that moment, in that room, you perceived the same thing. He was in another dimension already that afternoon. His eyes were brilliant, were shining in an incredible way. They usually always were shining, but that evening they were even more shining. And that afternoon, that hour passed. Then usually for me, before going away, I would take a chair and I would bring it back into the dining room, and I would go close to Swami. I would say, "Have a good evening, Swami, and buon appetito." And he looked at me, and he said, "Good evening, Nadia." But he really looked me in the eyes. It's been 9 years that I've been meditating almost every day on those eyes, on that gaze. I didn't realize that he was already somewhere else. And he really wanted it. He wanted to just fly in the arms of his Guru and all of our masters. And that evening, when I came out of that room, it was a different exit, and I only realized the next day, because that evening, it was an evening to say, "My friends, I want to say goodbye. My body wants to say goodbye, but my spirit will always be with you in every instant." Because those such precious moments are something incredible. I arrived in the room, in Swami's room, after he left the body. Obviously, it was impossible not to cry. There were 6 or 7 of us in that room. But I think the angels, there must have been thousands. It was a full room, full of light. And it was a light that was astral. The feelings, the feeling of seeing Swami like that, without leaving his body, was very deep. But we all knew that he would be with us, because he got us used to this. He got us used to the periods of the year that we would pass in America, and others he would pass in India. And he got us used to live, to make decisions, to choose for ourselves when he was not there. But how could you do the right choice? You would close your eyes and you would say, "What would Swami do in this moment?" And incredibly, the answer was there. And was it the right answer? I think so. Because if you ask Swami, if you turn to him with that faith, the answer comes. And these angels are still at Ananda. They didn't go away with Swami. A few of them maybe went with him, but most of them remained. And we should never forget that his strength, his energy, his mission to bring forward Yogananda's work is not finished. Yogananda, Swami, and all of our masters are working and they are continuing to work through all of us. So each one of us has a responsibility, because each one of us also represents Swami. Every smile, every thank you, every gaze has to be the gaze with that love. And if we can keep his strength intact, Yogananda will have brought a new mission, a new strength to this planet, because we are only at the beginning of this great mission. And we have to do it with all ourselves. We cannot leave anything aside. We have to give everything. And just like with love, if it's not given, it is lost. It is a shame not to give it. We need to give it. And Swami did it until his last moment, until his last breath. And thank you, Swami, for having the opportunity to share. I don't think it's possible to ever stop talking of Swami, because Swami continues through our lives. He's with us and he'll always be with us. Have a blessed moksha.
Facciamo un ultimo canto.
We'll do one last song for tonight. So the melody is from the composer 𝗔𝗕𝗙𝗘𝗧, the Pearl Fisher. And Swami Kriyananda wrote words for this song. And then Kirtani and Shivani will finish the evening. Questa è anche l'ultima composizione che Swami Kriyananda ha scritto. So this is also the last composition.
Could you speak in the microphone, perhaps?
This is also the last composition that Swami Kriyananda wrote. È anche l'ultima composizione che Swami Kriyananda ha scritto.
𝗔𝗕𝗓, Divine Mother, she who made the universe. 𝗔𝗕𝗓, Divine Mother, ruler of every heart's desire, love more ancient, bliss eternal, may our hearts soon be merged in thee. Sì è lei la Divina Madre, creatrice dell'universo. Sì è lei la Divina Madre, regna sui desideri d'ogni cuor. Puro amore, gioia eterna, il nostro cuor si immerge in te. Puro amore, gioia eterna, il nostro cuor si immerge in te.
Chi conosce Swamiji sa che
Those who know Swamiji know that his relationship with Divine Mother is very much reflected in this last song. He took a piece of music that expresses a lot of the vibration of a mother that loves. And he put these words that you've heard. So thank you for this song. I would like to thank the others who spoke. I never grow tired of hearing ours. Especially those who have been with Swamiji for many years, because there are so many stories and so much teaching that we have received in these years with Swamiji. And I wanted to, as someone already said, some of you have not known Swamiji. And those of you who were there this morning at the meditation, you've heard Swamiji's words that he wrote 1 week or 2 weeks before he left the body. And for those who knew him, it was interesting for us to hear those words. And for those who didn't know him, it could easily seem that Swamiji was depressed, which he never was. And I want to share a few of these phrases that Swamiji wrote, also to clarify what was his consciousness in that moment. Because Swamiji, he himself said he was always enthusiastic, he had a lot of energy. All of us as a whole community had a difficulty keeping up with him. He would run, and we always try to keep up, to run after him. Thank you. So to try to keep up with him, to keep his rhythm of living, of acting, etc., etc. But in this moment, Swamiji says, nothing in this world attracts me anymore. He says, I've always been aware, conscious that I could not really accomplish anything worthwhile in this world. And those who know Swamiji, all of the books that he has written, all of the music that he composed, one would never say that he would say this. He said, what I feel, I only want to merge in God. And the only thought that remains is that I want to take all of you with me. But he said, but your attachments, your identifications, your desires, they don't mean anything to me. Which is also strange for Swami to say, because he was very interested in people. He really wanted to know, he wanted to help. He says, none of that means anything, but just as my own desires, attachments don't mean anything to me. But it doesn't mean that I love you less. In fact, I love you more because I love that part of you which is eternally real. And this has always been a gift of his, of Swami's, to be able to love all people, even those who hurt Swami, because he was able to love that eternal part in them. And then he would say, because this was at Easter, and he would say, if we have to resurrect from something, let us resurrect our souls. Let it be to resurrect our souls toward the truth that we are all children of God. That is our soul reality. I remember that Shivani in that moment was talking to a few of us of what is happening with Swami in that moment, because it is true. It's true that those who don't know him could easily imagine that Swamiji was in depression or that he was not at all interested in life anymore. But Shivani recorded us that in the Bhagavad Gita, the Hindu Bible, Arjuna asks a question to Krishna, and he asks, what are the qualities of a realized man? And when I reread this evening, if you read what Krishna says, God as Krishna, it's obvious that what was happening with Swamiji, as Nadia had already said, he was withdrawing from the world to prepare to go to his own eternal reality. And these are some of the things that Krishna says, which are qualities of a realized man, self-realized man. He said this extreme dispassion, perfect even-mindedness, completely centered. This inclination for anything external, complete detachment, that are the things that come, that bring to the last steps of the journey to self-realization. One who is not elated, extremely elated, when something good happens, nor is he depressed by evil. One who sees that is able to perceive the Supreme Spirit, loses all taste for anything that is not infinite, that is not the infinite Spirit. And this was the state in which Swamiji found himself, in which he was in for a while already, before leaving the body. And we know that different prophecies said that Swami would live for, some said 88 years, some said 93, in the end it was 95, so even someone said. And I remember Swamiji said during one of those last years, he said, no way I will still be here for another 5 years. And this should have been an indication for us that his moment was about to come. In the vows of the Ṇayaswamis, I don't know if there's anyone here who had been here for the last weekend for the program of the renunciates. Because this is one of the things that Swamiji created in the last years of his life. A renunciant order for those who know that living for God is the goal of life. And from one of the vows of the 𝗦𝗧𝗢𝗏, a phrase was taken that is now in 𝗦𝗧𝗢𝗙𝗓 at Ananda village in America, where Swami Kriyananda's body is. And it's a beautiful mandir, beautiful little temple that when those of you who go, when it becomes possible, hopefully, you have the opportunity to meditate in that mandir, and there's an incredible energy there. As 𝗟𝗓𝗓 had said, Swamiji was here, his body was here for 7 days, and we were able to meditate with the energy, with the consciousness that was Swamiji, the love, the joy, the sense of freedom that Swamiji was in that moment. And there in Moksha Mandir, you can feel that energy. And what he says, Swamiji took, or someone took, this phrase from the vow that Swami created for the 𝗦𝗧𝗢𝗏 vow, which is the 𝗦𝗧𝗢𝗏s are those who are most deeply dedicated to living only for God. It's a vow of complete renunciation. And he says, I am free in thy joy and will rejoice forever in thy blissful presence. And this is the reality that we feel for Swamiji in this moment. And also after he left the body and up until today, he is always in this blissful presence that we today, meditating for 24 hours of this day, that our community is meditating in this day of his moksha, his freedom, we can attune ourselves with that divine presence, this divine bliss. And I would like to finish stories are something, it's nice, and they help us to know Swamiji better. And these are two things that touched me because they helped me to see I'm not sure if humility is the right word. So humbleness. I think it's a quality of Swamiji that he, having done a lot in his life, he could have, for him to be able to say, I haven't done anything, because it was always Master, it was always God, it was Divine Mother through him who was doing things. And this was a moment out here, close to the gazebo, an unusual moment, because I was alone with Swamiji, and usually there were many people around him when he was here present. And in that moment, he said, just wait. Switches.
Okay. Sorry. Thank you.
Okay.
Swamiji said, what I do is not so much for everyone else.
Sai, Swamiji ha detto, quello che io faccio non è così tanto per tutti gli altri,
But it's really for my growth.
ma è veramente per la mia crescita.
And he said, if I didn't accept the opportunities that I'm given to share the light,
Se io non accettassi le opportunità che mi sono date per condividere la luce,
God would find someone else.
Dio troverebbe qualcun altro.
He didn't feel that doing what he was doing was something that made him somehow important.
Non sentiva che fare quello che stava facendo lo rendeva qualcuno importante.
God will find whoever is open as a channel to come through, and that's been said by several this evening. Every one of us, in the same way that Swamiji was, not egoically, but just, I want to serve you. I want to be a channel for your light.
Perché Dio troverà canali aperti, e questo è stato detto da diverse persone questa sera, no? Che se noi siamo aperti ad essere canali, non con l'ego, ma proprio dicendo io voglio essere un tuo canale, voglio servirti.
And we can all do that.
E tutti possiamo fare questo.
The last story is about, is Shibindu Lahiri the grandson, I think, of Lahiri Mahashaya, or great-grandson of Lahiri Mahashaya?
L'ultima storia è di 𝗔𝗕𝗓𝗘 Lahiri, che era il pronipote di Lahiri Mahashaya.
And when we were celebrating very possibly the 100th anniversary of Yogananda's birth in the village in America,
E quando era durante la celebrazione del 100° anniversario della nascita di Yogananda in Ananda Village in America.
and so Master's relatives and Shibindu Lahiri being Lahiri Mahashaya's relative, they came here and then they came to the village.
Così le persone della famiglia di Yogananda, del maestro, e anche 𝗔𝗕𝗓𝗘 Lahiri, che era dalla famiglia di Lahiri Mahashaya, sono venuti ad Ananda Village.
And for them it was the very first time that they had met Swamiji, they knew Swami, but it was the first time that they saw an Ananda community.
E loro hanno incontrato, hanno conosciuto Swamiji prima, ma era la prima volta che hanno visto una comunità di Ananda.
And I was living in one of the circle of homes, and we had a dinner planned with the people living in that circle with Shibindu Lahiri.
E io vivevo in un piccolo cerchietto di case e noi avevamo preparato una cena con tutte le persone che abitavano lì con 𝗔𝗕𝗓𝗘 Lahiri.
And before he came to dinner, he had spent some time with Swamiji in Swamiji's home and possibly walking around part of the community. In any case, he had seen part of the community.
E prima di arrivare per cena, lui ha trascorso un po' di tempo con Swamiji nella sua casa e anche probabilmente hanno camminato e hanno visto una parte della comunità.
And the conversation around the dinner table focused on one particular thing.
E la conversazione intorno al tavolo si è focalizzata su una cosa in particolare,
Which was brought up by Shibindu.
che è stata portata da 𝗔𝗕𝗓𝗘.
He said, if anyone has the right to be proud of the work he has done,
Lui ha detto se chiunque avesse il diritto di essere orgoglioso del lavoro che ha fatto,
all the books that Swamiji has written, all the beautiful music that Swamiji has written,
tutti i libri che Swamiji ha scritto, tutta la bellissima musica che Swamiji ha scritto,
the various Ananda communities that have been established,
e le varie comunità di Ananda che sono state create, stabilite,
the thousands of photographs, artistic, beautiful photographs that Swami has taken.
Migliaia di fotografie artistiche che Swamiji ha scattato.
And of course, the many people that he has touched through his initiations, through his satsangs, through his classes.
E ovviamente le tante persone che ha toccato attraverso le iniziazioni, attraverso il satsang, attraverso le lezioni.
And 𝗔𝗕𝗓𝗘 said, that man is so humble.
E 𝗔𝗕𝗓𝗘 ha detto, quell'uomo è così umile.
He doesn't take for himself the honor for all that he has accomplished in his life.
Non prende per se stesso l'onore per tutto quello che è riuscito a compiere nella sua vita.
Now, this was possibly a very important lesson for 𝗔𝗕𝗓𝗘.
E questo possibilmente era anche una lezione molto importante per 𝗔𝗕𝗓𝗘.
Because he was in a very powerful spiritual line in India.
Perché lui era in una linea, un lineaggio molto potente spiritualmente in
He had
India.
always been a businessman.
E lui è sempre stato un uomo d'affari.
And suddenly, everyone else before him in this line of spiritual legacy was gone, and he was the spiritual heir of this line.
E poi all'improvviso tutte le persone che erano prima di lui in questa linea spirituale hanno lasciato il corpo e lui era l'erede spirituale.
And I think before meeting Swamiji, he had that spiritual pride, which was, look at the line of spiritual ancestry I have, I'm important.
E penso che prima di incontrare Swamiji aveva questo anche atteggiamento di guarda questa linea importante, no? Che vuol dire che anche io sono importante.
And meeting Swamiji gave him another vision about what it means to be to have a spiritual legacy.
E incontrare Swamiji l'ha dato una visione diversa di cosa vuol dire di avere una eredità, di lasciare una eredità spirituale.
Of the people that you may have heard in these last few days, Miriam, the nurse of Swamiji,
E forse delle persone da cui forse avete sentito in questi giorni, Miriam, la infermiera di Swamiji.
and actually she read from Narayani's book about Swamiji. So we heard from Narayani's point of view Swamiji's passing.
E anche stamattina abbiamo sentito anche la lettura dal libro di Narayani, che era l'assistente personale di Swamiji, il momento del suo trapasso.
And we've heard from Naraya.
E abbiamo sentito anche da Narya.
And I'm just going to finish by sharing what I felt in the moment that Swami passed.
E io voglio concludere solo condividendo quello che io ho sentito nel momento del suo trapasso.
Because Miriam described it as an incredible joy
Perché Miriam l'ha descritto come una gioia incredibile,
that was in the room after Swami had left the body.
che era nella stanza dopo che Swamiji ha lasciato il corpo.
And Narayani describes it as this amazing expansion in love that she realized was Swamiji.
E Narayani l'ha descritto come questa incredibile espansione di amore che lei aveva percepito e realizzato che era Swamiji.
And what I experienced was infinite freedom.
E quello che io avevo percepito e sperimentato era questa libertà infinita.
And I really invite all of you, when you can, to make an appointment to meditate in the room where Swami left his body.
E voglio veramente invitarvi tutti, di quando potete, di prendere un appuntamento per meditare nella stanza dove
And for
Swami
those of you of our family to come as often as you can to meditate there.
nella stanza dove Swamiji ha lasciato il corpo. E per coloro di voi che siete famiglia, venite più che potete per meditare lì.
Because you will also be able to perceive the energy, the consciousness, the presence, the divine presence that is there because of this life of Swami Kriyananda that he dedicated to serving his guru, to serving his spiritual father and divine mother.
Perché sentirete l'energia, la presenza divina che si sente lì proprio per la sua vita così dedicata al suo guru e alla madre divina, al suo padre spirituale.
And as we've heard from all of us speaking tonight, Swami has transformed the lives of people whom he has touched.
E come abbiamo sentito da tutti che hanno parlato stasera, Swamiji veramente ha trasformato le vite di coloro che ha toccato.
And I know for those of you that are watching from home, many of you have felt that, experienced that transformation.
E so che anche tanti di voi che state guardando da casa avete sperimentato questa trasformazione.
As Uma said, it does not depend on your having met Swami personally.
E come Uma ha detto, non dipende da aver incontrato Swami personalmente.
How many of us have had a lifetime, a spiritual lifetime of attuning to Master, not because we met him in his physical form, but because of what Swami has shared and other disciples have shared, and all of his books and also his chanting.
E quanti di noi abbiamo avuto una vita spirituale intera di sintonizzarci con il Maestro, non perché l'abbiamo incontrato nel corpo, ma per tutto quello che Swamiji ha condiviso, gli altri discepoli hanno condiviso, la sua musica, i libri, eccetera.
And we can all continue to do that with Swamiji.
E tutti noi possiamo continuare a fare questa cosa con Swamiji. The only thing that remains to be said is let's follow in his footsteps as devotees, as disciples, as human beings, with kindness, with compassion. For us, the day of his passing, obviously, there's a little bit of sadness, but in that same day, he was also, for him, it was his birthday celebration in the astral world. So I think today they are celebrating his birthday. I think he's in a place which I call Ananda Loka, the kingdom of joy, the realm of joy, where there's already many of our people, of our family. So they are celebrating, and we want to celebrate every day with gratitude for this great soul who came to earth and blessed also our lives. Thank you, Swami. And we'll conclude, all of us standing up, also you at home, and we'll chant Om to remember that Swami already is part of Om, of the eternal, of infinity. And also we, together with him, are part of Om.
Uniamoci con Swami nell'Om.
Let's unite with Swami in Om.
Shanti, pace. Amen.
Amen. And good night to everyone. And I think this weekend we will also have activities dedicated to Swami Kriyananda. They'll also be online, and you can be present on the websites. What are the activities? I think Saturday evening.
Love is all I know, sun rays on the snow of our winter long, in darkness without song. Oh, my heart's a fire, burning all desire. Only you remain, and life again. Too long I did stray, flung lifetimes away, imagined you did not care. I know now your smile was mine all the while. I listened and love was there. I can't breathe for love, all the stars above call to me, come home. Life's waves all end in foam. Only love can heal all the pain I feel. What a fool was I to turn away. Love is all I know, sun rays on the snow of a winter long, in darkness without song. Oh, my heart's a fire, burning all desire. Only you remain, and life again. Too long I did stray, flung lifetimes away, imagined you did not care. I know now your smile was mine all the while. I listened and love was there. I can't breathe for love, all the stars above call to me, come home. Life's waves all end in foam. Only love can heal all the pain I feel. What a fool was I to turn